You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose is the show. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate all of you. We have a lot of news to get to. The NBA deadline, the trade deadline was last week. There's a lot of fallout from all that stuff. The Atlanta Hawks managed to do nothing, and I have a lot of opinions about that. The SEC is a great basketball conference, and I say this every single week, and the only reason why I say this every single week is that it continues to be true every single week. And look, if you look at where the SEC was as a basketball conference a year or two ago, you would not have suspected that they would be this good. We could have 9 teams in the tournament. 9, okay? We're already almost in March. We don't have very much left of February. The SEC tournament is right around the corner, and we could have 9 teams in the NCAA tournament from the SEC. This is a good year for the SEC, and I think that this is where you want to be as a league, right? Because for, I don't know, a little over half a decade, it was a joke over here. It was Kentucky and everybody else, right? Kentucky's still good, but everyone else has managed to join them. So I'll talk about that a little bit. But let's start with the story about Ole Miss basketball, because in this age of SEC basketball ascension, what we have is one team that is not ascending with everybody else. That is Ole Miss. And Ole Miss head coach Andy Kennedy has agreed to step down. He will be parting ways with the university. They agreed to part ways at the end of this season. So he will coach until the end of the season, and then Andy Kennedy will be stepping down, which, look, it hasn't been great at Ole Miss, but when you look at how much better everyone else has been this year, there is a certain level that you have to be thinking, if you're a booster or you're an administrator, that you can do better than this. Ole Miss is 11-14 with a conference record of 4-8. It's just not good enough to get it done. And Andy Kennedy made the NCAA tournament, one time in his entire tenure at Ole Miss? Look, that's bad news. You're not going to be able to be a successful coach, and you're not going to be able to keep your job for very long if you're going to be at a big-time Division I program and you only make the tournament once. And I don't believe they got very far in that tournament when they made it. So this is not particularly great for them. Andy Kennedy, by the way, stepping down, is the winningest basketball coach in Ole Miss history. It's not a school with a great history of basketball. And again, that's not entirely their fault. This is a school in a conference that primarily is a football conference, but that does not mean that you have to be bad at basketball. And I'll give you an example, the Big 12. The Big 12 is primarily a football conference, and yet Kansas has been good forever. We've had on and off years of good Kansas State teams, of good Texas teams. Oklahoma is good every now and then. They're good this year. They're a team that they were able to get Blake Griffin in the past. I mean, they're a team that are able to recruit stars. We haven't seen that so much in the SEC, I think, as much as we should have, right? And we've had good SEC basketball in the past. But I would say, I don't know, the last decade of SEC basketball outside of Kentucky has been, and maybe some runs that Vanderbilt has been able to put together, has been absolutely pointless. And we haven't gotten good basketball, but now you're looking at it, and we've gotten some good teams. But if you're Andy Kennedy and you're the lone guy that's not rising to the challenge when everybody else is, you're out the door. Right? Like you can survive when everybody else stinks. But when nobody else is bad, it's you, man. You got to go. And I'm not saying that Andy Kennedy is a good or bad coach, because I can tell you with a very, very high degree of honesty that I've spent almost no time in my life watching Ole Miss basketball, but that's kind of the point. That is kind of the point. There is no reason to sit down and watch Ole Miss basketball. They're not very good. Part of it is the recruiting, part of it is the coaching. You're always going to be at a disadvantage, I think, recruiting for Ole Miss, especially in basketball, because this is not a basketball league. And then you're saying to somebody, please come to Oxford, Mississippi and live here. It's a tough sell, I think. You know, I mean, I've only been through Oxford once. I really like it. Right? Like, I don't know how many people I'm upsetting with that. I don't think very many. I don't think that I am breaking any news here when I tell you that Oxford, Mississippi is not exactly the most thrilling place to be on this earth. Yeah, that's a tough sell. You need one hell of a recruiter down there. That's what I think. I think forget for a second getting an X's and O's guy and just hire a guy who can recruit his pants off, who can actually convince some kid to go to Oxford, Mississippi when they could be in Kentucky, when they could be in Knoxville, when they could be in Nashville at Vandy. That's a tough sell, man. Like, if you're going to come to the SEC, you could convince me to go to Athens because I'm not that far from Atlanta. Why would I go to Oxford? You're listening to All New Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose is the show. I'm Keon Rose. Our phone number is 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. If you want to defend Oxford, Mississippi, or anything else that I'm about to trample on today while I'm talking, because I'm going to talk about the SEC and basketball, the positive side, right? I got the negative out of the way with Ole Miss. I think it really stinks for them, and it stinks for Andy Kennedy, but something has to happen there because this league is too good for you to be the guy that's lagging behind, right? And he's been there since Kennedy's been there for a little while. How long has he been there? Right? Like, Andy Kennedy's been there since, he's been there for what, 6 years now? Right? He's been there since, he's been there for longer than 6 years. He's been there since 2006. Yeah. You've been there for 12 years and you've made the NCAA tournament once. Yeah, man. Out you go. The rest of the SEC, though, doing really, really well. And I'm amazed and I'm surprised because I feel like we could have 9 teams in this tournament very easily, right? Here are the teams that I think could make the tournament. And I'm going just based on record. Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. All of those teams are doing really well. The worst teams on the list being Miss State, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Arkansas with a 17-8 record. That's a really good record. And if any of those teams do well in the SEC tournament, and there's no reason to believe that they can't, they could all wind up in the NC2A tournament, right? The 2 teams that are automatically in as of now, and they're not really in automatically, but their record is so good and they're playing so well, there's no reason to believe that they won't get in. They're not a bubble team. They're in the top 15 in the Associated Press poll. When you're in the top 15 this close to March, you're probably in. Tennessee and Auburn, right? And Auburn, by the way, absolutely surprising. Everyone thought, were they not projected to finish 9th in the conference? They were projected to finish 9th. They're first. Bruce Pearl turning it on. Rick Barnes getting exactly what he wants out of his guys at Tennessee, building exactly the kind of Rick Barnes team that we've seen before in the past. Good defense, good three-point shooting, and one really big guy in the middle that can score at will. That's basically the blueprint of a Rick Barnes team. And it's absolutely functional. And beyond functional, it's terrifying in the SEC. They are amazing. Absolutely incredible. And so I'm looking at Auburn and Tennessee. They're in, right? Florida, Missouri, Alabama, and Miss State, they're really safe. I'm really surprised by Alabama, by the way, because they started off kind of slow. And Avery Johnson's been there for a long time. And I thought, well, boy, Avery Johnson might be coaching for his job this year. But no, Avery Johnson's been really solid, and he's gotten his guys to go out there and play at a very high level. I just like the SEC in basketball. And look, when you talk about making the tournament, there's a certain level of prestige that comes to your league from making the NCAA tournament, having a number of teams make the tournament. But when most of your league is going to be, has a possibility of being in, That's pretty incredible. And by the way, Auburn and Georgia could make the NIT, right? Like two of your worst teams are still going to be in some kind of tournament. Like there's no good reason why LSU and Georgia can't. So you've got a very good league. I want people to know just how good this is. I'm impressed. Every week that I sit down and I watch some more SEC basketball, I am more and more impressed by how it is that these guys are playing. Like all the time, I'm blown away. It's like a different league than it was last year. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, Clutch with Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM. Want to shift gears on over to college football because Jarrett Stidham is going to be out for the spring. He had surgery on his left shoulder. And so what this does for Auburn is it gives them an opportunity to look at some of their younger quarterbacks and younger players that are going to be on their roster and maybe see what's going to happen down the road with a lot of their with a lot of their other quarterbacks on this roster, because you look at Jarrett Stidham's not going to be there forever, and you need a backup plan. And Gus Malzahn, lest we forget, was about to be fired 2 years ago. Okay. And this was in large part because he didn't have a quarterback. He either couldn't find one or couldn't develop the guys that he had. And Gus Malzahn specifically is known to be a quarterback whisperer type guy. So when Gus Malzahn can't produce a quarterback, he can't develop a quarterback, this is a problem. And Jarrett Stidham came to Auburn already developed. So I'm not really that strongly believing in Gus Malzahn's ability to develop a guy. And what we're going to see in the spring game, I think, is someone of the guys that's going to be after Jarrett Stidham with a lot of potential. That's what we're looking for now. Who's got a lot of potential? And I want to know, is it Malik Willis or is it Joey Gatewood? Because Joey Gatewood's a guy, he's going to be a freshman this year, recruited out of high school. People are looking at Joey Gatewood, and these are not my words. They're calling Joey Gatewood the next Cam Newton. Now, I watched some of his high school mixtape. Joey Gatewood looks like Cam Newton when he plays football. Now, here's the thing, though, because I think a lot of Auburn fans are salivating at the prospect of Joey Gatewood being their quarterback at some point. That guy's rough, right? And all of his highlight videos, there's hardly any of them with him throwing the ball, right? When he does, he can throw it, right? Like he's got a strong arm. But in terms of experience, he doesn't have that much experience because he was sharing time with another quarterback. When it comes to understanding offense was very simple. And like I said, he ran a lot of designed runs with this guy. And I'm sure he's a good kid, right? He's just raw. He's just really, really raw. And that's going to be a problem if you're Auburn and you need to rely on a quarterback, right? But a lot of people are looking at Gatewood and going, yeah, man, he's where it's at. I think that Willis is probably a more likely answer to the quarterback question should it come up, because Jarrett Stidham is recovering from surgery. Now, fortunately for Auburn, it's on his non-throwing shoulder, which helps. If it's on the throwing shoulder, I think you're just done. But it's on the non-throwing shoulder. And so you're hoping that you can get something out of Malik Willis, which we don't know, right? Unknown commodity. A lot of these guys are unknown commodities. You have a couple of walk-ons. You have a redshirt freshman in Will Appleton. You have Devin Adams, who's a walk-on senior. But Malik Willis and Joey Gatewood are the guys that are most talented, and they're the guys that are the scholarship guys. So you want something to come out of them. And so as we get closer and closer to April and a lot of these spring games, this is something to look out for so far as storylines go, is someone's going to need to have that backup spot ready for Jarrett Stidham when we start the season. Which guy is it going to be? My guess is it's going to be Willis. I think we very often overlook what experience does and what experience means. And Joey Gatewood just doesn't have that much. Right? Malik Willis has played a little bit. Not very much. He's thrown 7 passes, I think, in his college career so far. 6 of 7 passing for 45 yards. He threw a touchdown, no picks last year. He rushed 16 times for 221 yards. So, and for another touchdown, right? A lot of those stats come from blowouts and things like that. So his numbers aren't bad in really lopsided situations. But that game time experience, it all adds up and it all matters. And he's got more than Joey Gatewood, right? And I think that it does get to be a little bit misleading when you crown somebody the next Cam Newton because, well, Cam Newton's a very good NFL player. And so we look at Cam Newton in the NFL and we see a lot of great things that Cam's doing. And you see Joey Gatewood, and Joey Gatewood runs a lot like Cam runs, right? He's a long strider. He's 6'5". Have mercy. He's 220, 230, something like that. He's a giant, right? He's a giant of a human being. There is no high school graduate, almost none of them that look like this guy. And he's coming in to play quarterback, and he's very athletic. When he runs, it's very graceful for a guy that large. Like, he really does remind you of Cam. But quarterback is more than running the ball. And in the SEC, we are starting to see this league turn away from the quarterback that can just run it. We do still have a couple of throwbacks. I think that Jalen Hurts is a little bit of a throwback in that regard, where we can run a lot of read option stuff through you and you can scramble as well. And we're just going to beat you with a quarterback who can run on top of a brilliant running game. That's our plan. But most teams in the SEC, if you look across the board, are not built like that, not built with players like that, right? Like Jake Fromm is not a player like that. And even before Jake Fromm took the reins at Georgia, Jacob Eason was not a player like that, right? Neither guy that Tennessee had was a player like that. Pretty much only Alabama. So you're Auburn. You could try, but you really played great football last year when your quarterback was a traditional pocket passer with mobility, as opposed to a runner that you are asking to pass. I mean, that works not just better in the SEC, but I think just modern college football in general. I think that we're starting to return back to quarterbacks having these fundamentals. And part of it is that kids play quarterback at such a young age, and they play so much of it between playing high school football, and then you've got those Elite 11 summer camps where guys are just throwing the football and understanding offenses. Guys are coming out with a greater knowledge of how to throw the football, how to understand a defense, how to make a back shoulder throw, all the different things that they need to know in order to be successful quarterbacks. These high school guys are coming out with more and more of this. You really want to be the team that goes back to the Stone Age and you've just got the quarterback that you read option? That puts you behind. It puts you very far behind the 8 ball. You cannot be a modern college football program playing the ball like that. When you look at the top draft or upcoming draft picks, right? Like the guys that we think are going to be really good in the NFL that are at the top of everybody's mock drafts, your Sam Darnolds, Josh Allens, Josh Rosen, all those guys are pocket passers. Like that's where we are in the game. This idea that you can have this quarterback that runs and you're looking for the second coming of Michael Vick and Cam Newton. Like if you have a guy that dangerous and that lethal, trust me, you'll win, right? Like we saw it with Louisville. You've got Lamar Jackson. You'll win a lot. But you know what Lamar Jackson could also do? Throw the ball. That guy was completing over 60% of his passes. That's not something that I have a lot of confidence we're going to see from Joey Gatewood right out the gate. I think he will become that. I think he can become that if he does get developed properly. But that's not an expectation that you ought to have. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. And before the weekend, we had the NBA trade deadline went down to the wire, and we have a gigantic shakeup in the association. I will tell you all of those things next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Aggravated rape reported in Chattanooga. Chattanooga cops talked with witnesses who identified a female victim who was unconscious by the time the police got there. She was rushed to the hospital. She's expected to recover. 2 suspects have been arrested. They've been questioned by the Special Victims Unit, and they were held in the Hamilton County Jail. A man who crashed his car in East Ridge is wanted in Chattanooga for a shooting. East Ridge police say the suspect in that shooting crashed into a home on South Seminole, but it's in the East Ridge police jurisdiction. East Ridge police have agreed to work with the Chattanooga police in this case. The homeowner who helped the man who crashed said he was shocked to discover the man he assisted was wanted in a shooting case. Early Saturday morning, the Circle K on Battlefield Parkway in Ringgold was robbed at gunpoint. Ringgold police say that the suspect is a black man, 5'9", 140 pounds, wearing a hoodie. They're hoping you can help track him down. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Oh, man, rush. I've got to get stuff for the party. Where can I go that's going to give me a wide selection of beer, wines, and spirits? Oh, I got it. I'll go to Harry's Wine and Spirits, Signal Mountain. Maybe East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd. I could go to Riley's Wines and Spirits in Hickson. Wow, look at the huge selection in here. Look at these great prices. Amazing. Oh, yeah, I'm going to find something for my lady, too. I'm going to make this party a success.
Make your party a success when you stop in at Harry's Wine and Spirits in Signal Mountain, East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd, and Riley's Wine and Spirits in Hickson. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room, game, and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga. If your computer is running slow, if you have viruses, if someone called you asking to get into your computer, just say no. If a screen pops up on your computer saying your data is going to be deleted and you have to call this number, don't call it. You need to call Affordable Computers. You wouldn't invite a stranger to come into your house to look at all your books and records, so why would you invite someone to look at your records on your computer? With one wrong click of the mouse, you could be allowing access into your entire system. At Affordable Computers, we can stop them now. Don't be fooled by scammers and pop-ups to tell you must call this number or your hard drive is going to be deleted. You need to call Affordable Computers. Call Affordable Computers now. Microsoft is never going to call you. Microsoft is never going to ask you to call them. If you see that on your screen, you are being scammed. Stop and call Affordable Computers. 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975. In Fort Oglethorpe, call 706-858-5888. That's 706-858-5888. Affordable Computers.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
Expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now for your Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Light cold highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks, locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixie. Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at Noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, Noogaradio.com. Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you, and we had the NBA trade deadline before the weekend, and you know what it is about trade deadlines. People win and people lose the trade deadline. And I think it's safe to say that we have a few big winners of the trade deadline, right? Like we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're a big winner of the trade deadline. We have the Lakers. The Lakers, I think, are a pretty big winner of the trade deadline. I mean, they have a bunch of cap space. They have Cleveland's first-round pick. Yeah, the Lakers won the trade deadline. I think that's an easy opinion. Where it comes down to who lost it, I don't even know who lost the trade deadline. I think a lot of the teams that didn't do anything lost the trade deadline, right? There were very few teams who could win the trade deadline by doing nothing. The Wizards won because their GM, Ernie Grunfeld, is an idiot. And because he didn't trade away any of their good players, any of their draft picks, yeah, they're fine. But let's look at the Atlanta Hawks because Atlanta did nothing, right? And they had an opportunity to do stuff and didn't do anything. I think that they lost. And by the way, as far as NBA teams close to us, I think the Grizzlies lost too. Right? The Grizzlies have Tyreke Evans. Tyreke Evans is literally having the best season of his whole career. The Grizzlies can't make the playoffs, and they get nothing for Tyreke Evans. Right? You could have gotten draft picks. You could have gotten bench players. Nothing. And Tyreke Evans is going to be a free agent. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. So basically, you have Tyreke Evans. You have a bad basketball team. You could use Tyreke Evans to make your bad basketball team a better basketball team. And you just let Tyreke Evans walk out the door for nothing at all. And there are teams that could use Tyreke Evans. Right? Teams that are on the bubble that could use a Tyreke Evans and his versatility and his ability to get to the basket and his ability to make plays. There are a bunch of teams that would give up a ton for a guy like that. The problem is that the Memphis Grizzlies looked absolutely unrealistic in what it is that they were looking for. But you've got to get something for the guy. Right? Like nothing is not acceptable. Now, there were some teams that offered some second rounders for him. Nobody wants to give up a first rounder in this day and age. First round draft picks are really hard to come by. And I think that people learn the painful lessons of the Brooklyn Nets and the painful lessons of the Los Angeles Lakers of a few years ago when you start looking at these teams that have done a very, very, very poor job of holding on to those first rounders, only to find out that, yeah, we don't have any young talent. You can't build a team only through free agency. You need at least one of those draft picks to pan out. And you can't have a draft pick that pans out if you trade it away every single year. So I get that they're hard to get people to give up. But if you're the GM of a basketball team, is that not your job? Right? Like getting people to give up their high commodity assets is your job description. That is literally your job, right? It would be like walking into a classroom with a teacher and the kids are out of control and they're not learning anything. It's like, yeah, the kids are hard to control. Kids are hard to control. But that is actually your job. Yes, it's hard to get people to give up draft picks, and it's hard to get people to give up good assets. But that's why you're a GM. That's why it's you. Right? What is going on there? So I'm very much confused by how it is that the Grizzlies managed to get absolutely nothing for Tyreke Evans. So the Grizzlies fans, call 423-800-8949. That's the number. If you have any thoughts on that at all? Because I don't, right? I've been watching basketball a long time, and I've never seen a team back themselves into a corner through sheer indecision in that manner. But Atlanta arguably might have done worse. And here's how I know this. Almost everybody on their roster was available, right? They just said, look, we're taking calls for anybody here. Everybody was open. Who did the Atlanta Hawks trade? No one. And it's not like all of these players are not desirable. Okay, they made one trade. They traded Luke Babbitt for Okaro White. Ooh. I'm not impressed by that. I'm not impressed at all. Who is Okaro White? I don't even know who that is. Right, like that's not even an upgrade. They didn't get any second-round picks out of Dwayne Dedman, who's a solid rotation player, Ersan Ilyasova, whose face I want to punch, but who's a solid rotation player, Marco Bellinelli, who's a solid rotation player, and Mike Muscala, who's a solid rotation player. You have a bunch of guys you could have at least been rolling in second-round draft picks and see if you could package those picks into first-rounders, a starting player, nothing. Right? And they might actually end up buying out Bellinelli. You could have gotten something for any of those guys. All of those guys were open for you to trade. Nothing. Why are the Hawks so bad? Can somebody take away Coach Bud's president of basketball operations powers? Because fundamentally, I think Coach Bud is a very good coach. I do. I also believe that Coach Bud might have made this team worse from a personnel standpoint than when he first got to the team. I think it's very possible that he might have made this team actually worse. And I'm not sure how to feel about that. This was a playoff team when Coach Bud got here. They weren't just a playoff team. They finished first in the Eastern Conference. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, where they were beaten, but by LeBron. And everyone gets beaten by LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals. And since that team won 61 games or 63 games or whatever it was, first in the East, Eastern Conference Finals, since then, this team has been out in the first round, out in the first round, out in the first round, missed the playoffs. How is that possible? How's that possible? And when you look at the team, every year, the team somehow looks less talented than it was the year before. And only if you are bad at signing players and making trades is that actually possible. And I'm not the one to come down on Coach Bud for his X's and O's. Because, look, that guy has forgotten more basketball than I know. And he comes from the Greg Popovich coaching tree. And if you come from the Greg Popovich coaching tree, like, far be it for me to criticize what you're doing in terms of on-the-court rotations, which I've seen people criticize that as well. I don't know enough to know that. All I know is that when you've got pieces to move right before the trade deadline, and literally everybody else in the league is moving pieces around, but not you, that's a problem. That's a gigantic problem. And I don't know how you fix that if you're Atlanta, how you take these powers back from Coach Bud that you have built into his contract. But I feel like he's ruining the team. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. Here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose is the show. I'm Keon Rose, if that was not abundantly clear. But you did have some winners from the trade deadline, right? You had, Cleveland for one, right? Cleveland was able to get rid of Isaiah Thomas, which I think is huge, because Isaiah Thomas, if you talk about being fundamentally not a good fit for your basketball team in any living way, shape, or form, Isaiah Thomas was not a good fit for Cleveland. Right. And he wasn't the only one. Cleveland went after a number of players this offseason that were not great fits for them. Jay Crowder was another guy that they were able to get rid of that wasn't a great fit for them at all. And I think that Jay Crowder is a very talented basketball player. I think he's very good. Good 3-and-D guy. But when he got to Cleveland, he fell victim to the thing that a lot of people fall victim to when you join a team that has LeBron on it, which is you're not sure what to do. What do I do with my hands? You know, you're not sure where to go. LeBron James just has the ball constantly. He makes all of the decisions that you make. So you're not really cutting to the basket, which is a huge part of Jay Crowder's game. And he's going to Utah, right? You could argue that Jay Crowder individually got himself a little victory in the trade deadline. He left a team that he's a bad fit for to join a team that he's a better fit for. He's with the Utah Jazz. Quinn Snyder's a fantastic coach, very intelligent, very cerebral, and he's going to use Jay Crowder in a lot of good ways. And Utah is a playoff team, and they're trying to build on that and be better. I think that that's going to be very helpful for them. I like that particular move for them, and I like Cleveland getting rid of Jay Crowder because, again, it was just not a marriage that was working. Isaiah Thomas, you talk about things that were not working. Isaiah Thomas did not know what to do in conjunction with LeBron James. That was one. And then two, Isaiah Thomas might be one of the worst defenders in the whole league. Because Isaiah Thomas is my height. I'm 5'10", which is tall enough, but that's average height. That's the average height of an American man, right? Which is fine for most jobs. In the NBA, it tends not to be fine when, you know, the average height is well above 6 feet, right? So Isaiah Thomas might be one of the worst defenders in the whole league just based on his size, which is that he's a tiny person, and he's trying, but it's not working. And Cleveland is a bad defensive unit, so he's just getting exposed. There's no way to hide Isaiah Thomas. Shipping Isaiah Thomas off to the Lakers is the best move that Cleveland could have made. Right? I think if anything ends up being obscured here, it's that I don't know what happens to Isaiah Thomas. Because this is a contract year for him in which he spent most of the season injured and not playing. And then when he was playing, he joined a team that he doesn't fit well onto. And he played one game with the Lakers so far, and he looks like an infinitely better Laker. Now, the problem with Isaiah Thomas, again, is that he's now on a team that already has a point guard in Lonzo Ball, and they more or less perform the same function. Now, with that being said, I think Isaiah Thomas is a more dynamic scorer than Lonzo is. You could play them together, except you would have to play Isaiah Thomas as your 5'10" shooting guard, which might work, except you already have a shooting guard in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So what do you do there? Because he's playing well. The Lakers have kind of moved themselves into this short-term conundrum. But in credit to the Lakers have done something absolutely magnificent, which is that they have a unholy amount of cap space. And we've got a number of big-name free agents on the open market this year. The Lakers do not care about this year. They don't care about making the playoffs this year. The Lakers in the summer, the Lakers are going to win the summer so hard. I am warning you right now because you're going to be tired of hearing about them. So I'm going to get my Lakers stuff in now so I can stop talking about them by the time the summer comes. They are going to win the summer so hard. They have first-round draft pick from Cleveland. So they've got a first-round draft pick again. Sure, it's at the end of the first round, but they've got another one. They have cap space. Paul George is a free agent. LeBron James is a free agent. And if you don't think that the Lakers are going to go after both of those guys and land one, if not both, you're crazy. I think they're probably going to land Paul George. I don't see LeBron James leaving Cleveland. I see LeBron James getting paid way too much money to stay in Cleveland. But I don't see him leaving it. Right? And I say way too much money. I mean that relatively speaking. You can never pay LeBron James too much money. He's the best player in the league. But I think that LA is going to inflate the LeBron James price. That's what I think. I think LeBron James's agent is going to be able to turn to the Lakers and say, hey, what if you guys sign me? I think the Lakers did a masterful job. An absolutely masterful job. So did Cleveland. Cleveland did a masterful job in who they got rid of, though. right? Because they were able to get Larry Nance. They were able to get Jordan Clarkson. Both of those things look really good. They were able to get George Hill. But I think the Cavs got better on who they got rid of. They got rid of Dwayne Wade, who is old and wasn't meshing very well with LeBron James. This is not prime Dwayne Wade. He's got the wear and tear on his body. And they did a really classy thing. They didn't just ship Dwayne Wade off anywhere. They shipped him back to Miami, where he wanted to end his career anyway. That's a great move, PR-wise. They put a stamp on Derrick Rose and stuffed him in a mailbox, got rid of him, which I think is good. I think they got rid of Amon Shumpert, which, again, that's a good thing for them in as much as Amon Shumpert's a great defender, but that guy can't score. They just made themselves a more versatile basketball team. And they looked like it the other day. Was it Sunday? They looked like it the other day. I am amazed at how much that team looks like a different basketball team. Now, it's just one game. The sample size is small. I understand. Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not going, oh, look, Cleveland looks like a finals team. But it was Boston that they were playing. Boston is the second best team in the East, and they beat Boston up. They beat them up. Now, I mean, Boston just have problems. Boston can't play any defense whatsoever, and that's because Kyrie Irving's their point guard. But for Cleveland to be able to do that to Boston gives you some level of measure as to what it is that this team is capable of, right? Like, if they play well, it looks like that. How often will they play well? I don't know. When teams start to get used to them and their tendencies, will that be something that you can actively rely on? I don't know. But if they keep playing well, that's what that looks like. That's scary. Right? Like, they're going to win the East again. Just if they keep looking like that. So I'm looking at this Cleveland team and I go, wow, they got better because they got rid of Dwayne Wade. They got rid of Derrick Rose. They got rid of Amon Shumpert. They got rid of Channing Frye. And they got rid of Jay Crowder. And I don't know, 3 out of those 5 guys weren't giving them anything anyway. And 2 out of those 5 guys weren't a great fit. I mean, it's absolutely genius what they were able to do, right? I'm going to see if I can get my brother on Wednesday, see if he can talk about this. My brother is a huge basketball aficionado and one of the most knowledgeable NBA people that I actually know. So I don't mind bringing him on about this so he can bloviate and gas bag on it with me. But I just thought that this was absolutely masterful by Cleveland and LA. I don't know what to say about the rest of the league. I know that a lot of other teams made moves, but I don't think that anybody made moves quite like Cleveland and LA did. Like, in terms of obviously winning. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, here on 92.7 FM. Just so mad about the Hawks, man. Like, what are they doing? You've got Dedmon, Ilyasova, Bellinelli, Muscala. You trade none of them. I don't know, man. Like, that's bothersome to me. There's something really wrong with that organization. They're not going to be a playoff team in the next 4 or 5 years. Not even close. And the Eastern Conference, by the way, is still bad. Anyway, we're going to shift gears to baseball. Last story of the day. Pitchers and catchers report to camp tomorrow. The Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves might be pretty good this season. I am a little reserved in saying that because I actually thought the Atlanta Braves were going to be pretty decent last season, and they were terrible for most of the season. They were absolutely dreadful. Dreadful. In every sense of the word, they were dreadful. And then the last 30 games of the season or so, they really came on and they looked like an actual baseball team. And so now I want to say they're going to look really good this year, but I hesitate to say it because their team looks new. It's very young. They've got a lot of really good prospects coming in, But how good are these guys really? We're going to have to find out. It's going to be a trial by fire situation. And I can't honestly tell you that this is a great baseball team coming out the gate. All I know is that the NL East is tough, right? The Nationals are still going to be really good. The Cubs are still going to be really good, and they gambled on Yu Darvish. If Yu Darvish pans out, well, now you've got a scary Cubs team, right, to deal with. And well, the Mets are falling apart. Like, the Mets are going to be bad. But maybe the Braves could dream to be third in this division. And I don't think that that's a bad place to dream to be. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM, all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. And I'll see you in 24 hours. Alex Jones, he's next.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio.